Archimediae Genesis. Sample Chapters 1. Hey guys! So, you may be wondering why the title of this video is different from the update logs I've been doing over the past few weeks. That's because this video is different. Today, I'll be delivering on the sample chapter that I promised last video, as well as the profanity I managed to develop for this world. So, let's get started. First, let's go over the profanity. Our first word is spacers, an insult towards anyone living or originating off of Earth. Its counterpart, meanwhile, is soilers, any insult towards anyone living on Earth. Another word towards a particular group is relic, an insult towards anyone who's religious. Religion isn't particularly banned or anything. It's just that in this world of technology, barely anyone believes in religion. Our next word is one that we've already covered, frame. I explained it better in the last video, but essentially, it just means to prank or trick someone. Then we have sunny. This word was actually developed after the gamma ray burst, in which the ozone layer was destroyed, and as a result, sunny days are bad. It's sort of used in a sarcastic situation to describe something bad, like, it's real sunny. After that, we have prit and crap. These are slangs for males and females, respectively. And lastly, we have crack, which is simply an exclamation like crud. So with all of that out of the way, let's get on to the two experimental chapters, which entail two new characters, Maria and Rajesh. Maria is the leader of the Archimediae, while Rajesh is the vice president of the Protochloriate. So let's get on with it. Cue the music. The Archimediae Genesis. Experimental Chapter 2. Rajesh. Rajesh, she says. I sigh in exasperation. I'm late, Mama. I sense her soft, crooked steps as she wobbles up to me and attempts to plant a kiss on my forehead. I bend down for her. She smiles and hugs me. Good luck, she whispers. I stroke her wrinkled face and smile. Bye. Bye, she replies. I nod and straighten my tie as I walk out with my briefcase in hand. I carefully step into the aero taxi. All good? The driver asks. Yeah, I ask. Take me to Chicago Domestic Teleport. Gotcha, he answers. I wave a final goodbye to Mama, and the aero taxi takes off into the sky. As we slowly ascend, the small houses in the suburban area shrink into ants, and the looming urban city in front of us that used to be home grows closer. Sharp skyscrapers jut into the sky like spikes, and the rubble scattered across the western section reminds me of the Novi terrorist attacks and the I-Tech takeover that followed, turning the city into an authoritarian corpse zone rife with crime. Some people, like us, managed to escape to the suburbs. Others weren't so lucky. The city seems almost unrecognizable. Before the burst, the streets were teeming with life, the buildings filled with light, cars and aero taxis zipping through the air. The countless highways that once wove through and between the buildings are now collapsed, their large bodies serving as makeshift shelters that the homeless hide beneath. The sad thing is, no one seems to care. The driver's voice jars me out of my thoughts. Through the corpse zone or around? Around will take an extra half an hour, but you won't have to pay any fees. I check my watch. Through. I'm in a hurry. Gotcha, the driver mutters. The car accelerates as we speed through the corpse zone, approaching the only shiny building in town, a skyscraper called the Snake. Its gleaming white body shines in the cloudy air, contrasted by the rusty gray grime and dust climbing up from the streets. The taxi tilts downwards, aiming for the center of the building. We hover for a few seconds, and the snake's twisted penthouse looming over us. An electronic buzz sounds, and a mechanical whirring sounds as pistons hiss, shifting plates to reveal a gaping tunnel inside the snake, painted with the same blinding tone of white, except this time a little grimier. Rows of lights line the roof of the tunnel. As it's early in the morning, only one aero car is lined up next to one of the several windows dotted along the sides of the tunnel. A light hangs from the ceiling, which now glows a dark red. The car in front of us passed through the tunnel. The same electronic buzz rings out, and the piston doors on the other side open, enabling the aero car to pass through. The light above us turns green, and the aero taxi moves forward, stopping in front of a panel on our right. The panel slides open, revealing a protochloriate worker manipulating a digipad behind the window. He slides the window open and shouts, 35 creds! The driver motions me to pay. I tap the button on the digital touchpad beside the window, lowering the glass between me and the outside. As the window lowers, a rank, musty smell fills the air inside the car. I reach my hand out and press my thumb on the fingerprint scanner, gleaming after being cleaned to remove the last car's fingerprint. Beep. A beep sounds. The protochloriate worker behind the glass swipes something on his digipad and gives the OK signal, raising his index, middle, and little finger, with his ring finger and thumb tucked in. The bus sounds, and the aero taxi is released onto the other side of the snake. The view from here is starkly different, with a giant concrete wall extending left and right as far as I can see. Large crashing waves bang on the wall, trying to tear it down with as much force as they can. And in front of us lie rows of broken skyscrapers and buildings, their respective pieces scattered around them on the ground. The results of the great floods. We're arriving in 3 minutes, the driver says. We zoom past all the wreckage. Small floating colonies float on the rough waters, formed by those stranded by the floods. Attempts at reconstruction are strewn everywhere. Small beds of dirt sit on various skyscrapers, growing crops such as apples and carrots, planted from the few supplies the survivors had before they were stranded. 1 minute, the driver mutters. Slip on your seatbelt. I nod and buckle on the latch as the ship tilts downward. A large concrete island floats out on the water in the distance. A blue haze of energy surrounds the island, its force field. The taxi lowers through the air, approaching the level of the island. Holding, he says. I look through the window as a disturbance pokes through the water. A sleek, gray submarine rises out of the blue surface. The driver motions me towards the submarine. I carefully open the door, carrying my suitcase. An officer emerges from the hatch on the ceiling of the submarine. My boots squelch on the wet surface as the officer takes my hand and helps me navigate it. As I disappear underneath the hatch, another officer greets me. Welcome, Rajesh Biswas, Vice President of the Protochloriate. Chapter 3. Maria, Experimental. You should see this. A coarse hand shoves a digipad in front of my face. Not now, Gary, I answer, shoving the tablet away and printing its screen with the outline of my sweaty hand. But it's urgent. I give him a stern look. His face turns grim and he steps back. But he's still there. Sighing, I swipe my own tablet, turning on comms. How much time till breach? I ask. Approximately 7 minutes, the mission operator on the other side answers. Copy that, I say, switching up the digipad. Purple dots swim around my eyes from squinting at the tablet for too long. I whip my head around to Gary. 7 minutes, I tell him. Well, he starts, you know that, slight mishap we had, a few weeks ago with the testing? The one where they went psychotic, I ask. Yeah, he answers. So what about it? Well, we ran the same trials this week, and it was a little bit better. They didn't go psychotic, but something really weird happened. For some reason, they became incredibly aware. Aware? I ask. Yeah, aware. Actually, more like sensitive. Every little sound, every little flash of light seemed to be the same level to them as a rock jam or a strobe room. We measured their brain activity. He hands me his tablet. Unlock it, I say. Oh yeah, right. He places his thumb on the screen and looks at the camera. The tablet vibrates in his hand as it opens. Here, he says as he hands it to me. 5 minutes till breach, the comms say. I take his tablet and look at the graph on its screen. 2 sets of yellow and blue bars are laid out on a plane. Gary peeks over my shoulder. Look at the yellow bars. That's the implanted. See how their brainwave activity is more than twice the control's brainwaves? I think we may have to implement the control method instead. I pause to think. No, I mutter, massaging my forehead. I squeeze my lips together in exasperation. We can't implement the control method. It's too tedious. We need at least 100 of those rooms for what we're gonna do. Can't we just use sedatives? No, their minds are too sensitive, I say. We don't know anything about them, and any agent introduced into their systems could contaminate them. Can't we just use one test subject for a sedative? He pleads. We still have a dozen or so subjects left. I narrow my eyes at him. Fine, but just one, and make Jacob do it. I want you working on the primary. Okay, fine, he says. He's about to walk away when he pauses and adds, What's the current deadline again? 2 months, I say. Got it, he mumbles, and walks away back to his lab. 1 minute till breach. I shift my attention back onto the large screen in front of me. The room is cavernous, shaped slightly like an old Gaian opera house. Those soilers had the right idea when they made those. From my vantage point on the upper balcony, I can see everything. The large array of computers that lay around 20 meters beneath me. The remote drone pods and the huge mission control screen that covers the entire front of the room. The pixels on its curved surface displaying information every second. A notification pops up on my digipad. Apparently new evidence was found against the Protochloriate, claiming that they were falsely arresting citizens and were working with the USR to band against us. I tap the notice and skim through the article. Seems legit. Thou shalt Pritz. I tap the send button to broadcast it across the entire solar system. Breach in 10 seconds. I snap my head up. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breach complete. Turning on mission comms. Set the comms to Echo 1, I say. The comms ring out static for a few seconds, and my heart beats in flow with the thrumming of the empty noise. Hi. Who was that? I ask. Mission comms, the voice answers again. I'm Mira. Hail the Archimediae.